Welcome. You're welcome to the online learning platform of Dexnova Consulting Limited. It's our pleasure to have you join us as we embark in your journey to becoming a globally certified project management professional. Dexnova Consulting Limited, by way of introduction, is a registered education provider with Project Management Institute, also endorsed by the IIBA. The subject we're going to be discussing here is project management. Uh, this course has been designed to provide you with 35 conduct hours required for your exam application. The content of the course is based on the fifth edition of the Project Management Body of Knowledge guide, so you can be sure that you are in the right place. And also, we must thank you for choosing us as your project management education provider. Um, Based on our years of experience within the industry, we can assure you that you are in one of the best hands in the industry today. Um, we have huge record that you can find on our website um, to prove this and to put your mind at rest that you will have a lot of value for your time. So we're going to quickly look at introduction. Uh, we are going to be looking at the general framework of project management, and then let's start with introduction to the PMP exam. The PMP certification exam tests your project management experience and your knowledge of industry best practice, your knowledge of how to use project management tools and techniques, your knowledge of project management institute processes, your understanding of the many terms that are used to describe the processes, your ability to apply those processes in a variety of situations, and your ability to apply key formula to scheduling, costing, estimating, and other problems, your understanding of professional responsibilities as it applies to project management. Let me just give a general idea of what we mean by all of that. You see, PMI is not necessarily going to concern themselves so much about how many years you have spent in the field of project management. Of course, you need a minimum requirement of 4,500 hours of a leading role in project management. But what you need to pass the PMP exam is your ability to apply PMI's methodology to project management. That is the processes that we're going to be discussing in this course. Your ability to bring them into a live scenario and think through these processes to provide responses to scenarios. You in the exam you definitely appear like a project manager who will receive different information on the project he is managing, and then you will have to respond as a project manager. Your responses usually will have to be found within the confines of PMI's processes, or what I call PMI's methodology. So it's your ability to satisfy PMI that you can apply the processes to project management activities or project management um, efforts that determines whether you are proficient enough to be certified or not. What PMI does when they certify you is that they give you a credential that says that this person has become one of PMI's PMP. And believe me, if you're going to be a PMI's PMP, you need to really be able to apply PMI's methodology to project management. The reason why this is gaining all the acceptance is getting in the whole world as of today is because of so much results, so much value that organizations are beginning to realize from these guys they call PMPs. Okay, so let's look at the exam administration itself. It's administered by computer-based testing or paper-based testing, depending on what is suitable for you or what is available in your locality. Computer based, you can refer to the Project Management Institute's website at www.dexnova.com for more information. Exam itself is 200 multiple choice questions to be answered in 4 hours. There will usually be one most appropriate answer of the 4 options presented in each question. Usually you see situations like, what is the best thing to do, what is the most appropriate thing to do, what is the correct thing to do, what is the first thing to do, what is the next thing to do. All these qualification adjectives, you will find them in uppercase, in capital letters, telling you that yes, these 4 options might be doable for a project manager, but for a project manager who is thinking best practices, who is to be certified by PMP as one of its PMPs, by PMI as one of its PMPs, there will usually be only one option that is most appropriate, that is correct, that is first to be done, next to be done, correct, and so on and so forth. Well, of these 200 questions, there are 175 questions of the 200 that will count towards your score. Well, don't bother trying to identify the 25 that wouldn't be counted. There usually no way to know. Okay, the 25, we call them pre-test questions. They are still going through review when there is some degree of confidence that candidate exam takers are able to understand the questions and the ambiguity is appropriate for the exam. Then they get drafted into the examination pool. But as at the time you will be seeing them, they are still under review. So those 25 questions will most likely look like every other question you will get to answer. So don't bother wasting your time trying to identify them. Okay, so just go into the exam like someone who is ready to answer 200 questions in 4 hours. Okay, maybe that's another thing that you need to be aware of, that well, as much as PMP exam should be quite easy for someone who is experienced and who understands best practices, one of the problems or one of the challenges is that you see candidates who get into the exam who answering the first 50 questions maybe in the first hour. They are quite analytical, taking their time to give the best answer, putting themselves in that shoes of the real project manager and providing responses as accurate as possible. But by the time they get into the 3rd hour, 4th hour, you see someone burning out, someone just picking options irrationally, just trying to get off the question, especially when you now see a wordy question towards the end of the exam, when you have spent over 3 hours looking at the system, trying to read through, trying to put your mind, trying to transport your mind into a project site that you probably are not familiar with, and so on and so forth. So you will really need to practice a lot of questions in order to strengthen your mind, or in order to have the mental energy required to go through 4 hours of analyzing scenarios and providing responses as accurately as possible. Okay, you will have a review time of about 30 minutes allowed before the start of the exam. There is 61% required to pass the exam. Well, the usual thing you see is whether you are proficient, moderately proficient, or below proficient. So you may not necessarily see a score at the end of your examination. Of course, instant notification of result is what you get as soon as you click the final question or your time is over. You get your results almost immediately. Okay, well, let's not major in minor. you have any further question on examination, you can always send email to Dexnova Consulting Limited. Let's get down to the real business of the hour. Project management. So we start with project. Let me sound a note here before we go on, that most of the definitions we're going to be seeing, most of the terminologies we're going to be using, they are really not far-fetched. They are really not outside of what we can fathom ordinarily with our minds. But usually you will agree more with a definition that you will see from PMI. The reason is because most of the information you will want to represent with 2, 3 or more sentences, they have captured it in just one sentence, and so it's very easy to agree more with their own definition, PMI's own definition. So let's look at project. Okay, you have your own definition for project. I'm sure if I were to pause the video and ask you to write down your own definition, you will come up with maybe 2, 3 sentences, or maybe a long sentence trying to explain what project is all about. Okay, but PMI has it in a very short sentence. Of course, if you are a professional in a particular subject, you should be able to tell us, you should be able to define that in a sentence as short as possible without losing meaning. So PMI says that a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. As simple as that. The word temporary there simply gives us an idea of a project having a beginning and an end. The end of a project would always be that time when the deliverables are accomplished. Sometimes a project is terminated by a sponsor or customer based on a shift in need, or whatever reason might just require that the project discontinues. Okay, so a project will always be temporary. That is, there is hardly ever a situation where you start a project and you want it to continue forever. So maybe operation will maybe that will be more of operation than a project. So a project is temporary. It is a temporary endeavor. You need to note that a project is not the product. A project is not the unique service or result. A project is not a deliverable. A project is a temporary endeavor, meaning that the task that we carry out in the process of accomplishing the result is what project is. The series of tasks, the series of effort that we combine to accomplish the deliverable of the project is the deliverable of the project is what the real project is. Okay, I'm going to remind you of this definition as we go on in the rest of the discussion in other modules. And then of course there is a unique product that is delivered at the end of every project. When we use the word unique, we do not mean that we do not carry out similar projects, but what we mean is this, that even when we have the same team delivering the same kind of product again and again, there will usually be difference in location, sometimes difference in consumers, sometimes difference in materials. There are usually some form of differences that make each project to be unique. So if we know what project is, if we know project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result, then we should check what project management is. Now PMI says that project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities in order to meet stakeholders' needs or expectations from a project. Okay, what knowledge? Okay, knowledge of project management. Actually, I often wonder when you see someone considering a career in architecture or engineering spend 5-6 years of training in the university, trying to become an engineer, and but the field of project management, we just feel it's something anybody who has some bit of IQ um, should be able to carry out. And so we do not know what we lose when we actually fail to acquire the knowledge of project management. So um, it will be a lot of value, it will be a lot of benefit if project managers will actually consciously or proactively learn something in the field of project management, such as this that you are doing. Um, I hope that the rest of the discussion in the course will give you a lot of realization that this is one of the best investments you have made in recent times. And I feel that way, or rather, I felt that way when I came across project management um, knowledge. It transformed my processes. It transformed how I handle individual private stuffs. Not even talking about organizational activities now, or managing project for the organization I worked for. Um, it's one of the best things you can invest in. So the project management will require the application of project management knowledge, project management skills, tools, and techniques to project activities in order to meet stakeholders' needs or expectation. When we talk about stakeholders' needs, these usually are the reasons why a project is authorized. No project get authorized without there being a need. The need can be a need of an organization, of a family, of an individual, of a society. Um, so in order to meet this need, um, there will be some form of application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities. Okay. Examples of project can include, but not limited to, developing a new product, service, or result, uh, effecting a change in the structure, processes, staffing, or style of an organization, developing or acquiring a new or modified information system, could be hardware or software, conducting a research effort whose outcome will be aptly recorded, constructing a building, industrial plant, or infrastructure, implementing, improving, or enhancing existing business processes and procedures. Um, um, well, like I said, not limited to this. These are just different ideas of what we can call a project. Okay, what a project is not. A project is not exploration. A project is not one team or one person working alone. Um, a project is not something you will do indefinitely, that will go on indefinitely. Um, a project is not something that has no constraint on time, cost, or performance. A project is not creating the same thing multiple times. Okay. Now, projects are authorized as a result of one or more of the following strategic objectives. It could be market demand. Market demand could force us into authorizing a project. Business need or strategic opportunity could send us into authorizing a project. Customer request, technological advancement, legal requirement, customer request, social need, all of that. Okay, so let's look at some stratifications that we have to consider in project management. Projects within programs or portfolios are a means of achieving organizational goals or objectives, often in the context of a strategic plan. Project management is the key to organizational survival and success, according to Tom Peters. A program now, which is the next level of this on the strata, on the in the classification. Is a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits and control not available from managing them individually. Okay, when we say related projects, a program will usually combine related projects in order to maximize resources, or in order to gain certain benefits that may not be available if the projects were managed separately. Benefits of a program include reduced cost, reduced risk, economies of scale, improved management, and so on and so forth. A project may or may not be part of a program, but a program will always have projects. And so at the top most level of the organization, we have a collection of programs, projects, and additional work managed together to facilitate the attainment of strategic business goals. We call that portfolio. Okay, for instance, an infrastructure organization might have a strategic business goal of maximizing profit on investment, maximizing returns on investment, and so they want to set up multiple programs in different areas, and then these programs in turn will probably require different projects to get them accomplished. The projects or programs may not necessarily be interdependent or directly related. Portfolios are typically managed based on specific goals. A goal of portfolio management is its maximization, value maximization. Senior managers or senior management team usually take on the responsibility for portfolio management. Okay, let's talk about operations a little bit. Of course, it's outside of the formal scope of project management, but we need to know what projects are not. Okay, so operations are an organizational function performing the ongoing execution of activities that produce the same product or provide repetitive service, e.g., manufacturing operation, production operation, and so on and so forth. Operations management is responsible for overseeing, directing, and controlling business operations. We have those we call operational stakeholder in project management. The needs of stakeholders who perform and conduct business operations are important considerations in projects that will affect their future work and endeavor. Project managers who consider and appropriately include operational stakeholders in all phases of project gain insight and avoid unnecessary issues that often arise when their input is overlooked. Operational stakeholders should be engaged and their needs identified as part of the stakeholder register, and their influence, which could be positive and sometimes negative, should be addressed as part of the risk management plan. Example of operational stakeholders can include plant operators, manufacturing line supervisors, help desk staff, production system support analyst, customer service representative, salespersons, maintenance workers, telephone sales personnel, and so on and so forth. There's a concept of business value. This is a concept that is unique to each organization. Business value is defined as the entire value of the business, the total sum of tangible and intangible assets. Value may be created through some effective use of portfolio, program, and project management. Organizations will possess the ability to employ reliable, established processes to meet strategic objectives and obtain greater business value from their project investment. There is a concept of project management office, which is an organizational body responsible for coordinated management of projects centralized under its domain. It could be a department that centralizes the management of projects. It's usually an organizational structure, an administrative structure that sees to um, um, execution of project according to the objective of the organization. The role of the PMO can vary from mere advisory role to having full responsibility over the projects of the organization. It's different from what we call project office, which on the other hand is the place where the project team is managed and where the project manager and project team may reside. We have different types of PMO structures in an organization. We have the supportive PMO, we have the controlling PMO, we have directive PMO. The supportive PMO provides a consultative role to projects by supplying templates, best practices, training, access to information, and lessons learned from other projects. In this case, it's more of advisory, supportive kind of role. The controlling PMO provides support and require compliance through various means. Compliance may involve adopting project management frameworks or methodologies using specific templates, sometimes forms, sometimes tools or conformance to governance. Sometimes you get some routine checks by those who are in charge of monitoring compliance to processes. And then we have the directive PMO. The directive PMOs take control of the projects by directly managing the project across board. The degree of control provided by the PMO is quite high. The PMO integrates data and information from corporate strategic projects and evaluates how higher level strategic objectives are being fulfilled. A primary function of a PMO is to support project managers in a variety of ways, which may include but are not limited to managing shared resources across all projects administered by the project management office, identifying and developing project management methodology, best practices, and standards, coaching, mentoring, training, giving oversight, and so on and so forth. Monitoring compliance with project management standards, policies, procedures, and templates, means of project audits. And then developing and managing project policies, procedures, templates, and other shared documentations. We call this organizational press asset. We're going to be defining it later in the course of the training. Coordinating communication across projects. Okay, so all these are some of the things that the project management office gets to carry out within an organization. Now, the project manager. The project manager is the person assigned by the performing organization to achieve project objectives, usually by leading a team or by performing whatever is required to accomplish the objectives of the project. The project manager must have a high degree of communication skill. More than 90% of the time of the project manager is spent communicating, so it might just be disastrous not to have good communication skills. Organizational skills, budgeting skills, problem solving skills, conflict resolutions, negotiation and influencing skills, leadership skills, team building, and human resources skills. All these are skills that usually are not taught in any university or in any academic environment, but are very, very requisite to becoming a good project manager. For effective project management, the project manager must have the following characteristics: knowledge, that is what project manager needs to know about project management. Remember, we define project management as application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet expectation of stakeholders or to meet the project requirement. Performance, this is what project manager is able to do or accomplish while applying project management knowledge. And then the last one, personal, how project manager to the project behaves while performing project or related activities. Um, the project manager's core competencies: leadership, judgment, integrity, knowledge, action management, organizational awareness, communication skills, interpersonal skills, negotiation skills, thinking skills. All of these are very, very, very requisite to um, the success of the project manager on a project. Okay, so considering project objectives, they are usually contained in a document we call preliminary project scope statement, and the project scope statement, which is a more detailed version of the scope statement of the project. Management by objective is a concept that believes that an organization should be managed according to its objectives. This is achieved by establishing unambiguous and realistic objectives, periodically evaluating if objectives are being met, and implementing corrective action as the case may require. Um, Management by objectives work best when management supports it. Okay, so we have this triple constraint in some industries called iron triangle. The essence of triple constraint is just for the project manager to be aware of those things that constrain the project. Recently, it has been expanded into more than just three constraints. The iron triangle or the triple constraint used to contain just used to consider um, time management, costs, and scope. Okay, but now it has increased to six, where we have addition of quality, risk, and customer satisfaction. Okay, um, management directly or indirectly sets the priority of each of the components of the triple constraint. This prioritization is used throughout the project by the project manager to plan the project, evaluate the impact of the changes, and prove successful project completion. Um, Coming back to what we mean by project management body of knowledge, usually referred to as PMBOK, some call PMBOK, whatever you want to call it. Like I would always remind you in the course of this training, do not major in minor. Um, Call it whatever you like to call it. I call it the PMBOK. Okay. Um, if you want to avoid all of that, the project management body of knowledge guide. It contains the standards for managing most projects most of the time across many types of industries, be it construction, event, IT, and so on and so forth. The standard describes the project management processes used to manage a project towards a successful outcome. Okay, project management standards do not address all details of every topic. So a lot of times the knowledge areas we're going to be discussing will be based on the perspective of project management. So we will be discussing project integrations management, project scope management, project time management, project cost management, and so on and so forth. All right, so that we don't get confused. Um, so this standard is limited to individual projects and the project management processes that are generally recognized as good practice. Other standards may be consulted for additional information on the broader context in which projects are accomplished, such as the standard for program management, which addresses the management of programs, the standard for portfolio management, which addresses the management of portfolios, organizational process, project management maturity model, which examines an enterprise's project management process capabilities. Okay, so in the next module we're going to be looking at organizational influences and project life cycle. But so far so good. We have only been discussing some introduction. Um, we've been having a sort of introduction into what we're going to be doing for the rest of the period. So we've looked at what a project is, what project management is, who a project manager is. We looked at the project, program, and portfolio. We looked at the the um, the the role of the project manager and the skills required of the project manager on project. So much more still ahead. Just hang on and keep the drive alive as we go further and we get detailed um, with the discussion. Thank you.